An Empire of Ice and Fire by Longclaw 1-6. Chapter 7. Escape. John. The young man glanced back at his father. He viewed him with kind eyes. Are you coming below? It will be a long voyage, and you will need your rest for the ride back to Winterfell. Smiling wanly at his father, John shook his head. I'll be there in a moment, father. Allow me a little more time in the fresh air. The cooling mist that time had to hit his skin banished the heat that had clung to him thanks to the scorching equatorial sun. Ned nodded, unwilling to bother John as the ship left the harbour. Luckily, they were able to set off with the last of the cargo ships, sailing off into the narrow sea, free from any hue and cry. John and Daenerys' antics could have spelled for them. Gods, he was just like his mother, always getting into trouble, and finding someone who would willingly charge right into the trouble alongside him. Lyanna, he whispered, to the sparkling ocean, to the orange and pink skies above. I pray that I have done right by you today. He gave one last look to John before heading below decks. There would be plenty to discuss, but the small smirk on Ned's face belied his knowledge of what John would likely do that night. Staring at the shrinking landmass to his south, the red-orange orb of the sun setting on the right, John thought of his beloved, the woman he loved with all of his heart. She is here, with me. Gods! What had a lowly bastard done to deserve such divine providence? John didn't think he'd ever know. John walked away from the railing, heading down after his father, towards his rooms. The magnitude of what had happened in Pentos weighed on him, hitting him like a ton of bricks. Taking on a prince and the entirety of the magisters of the great city, him and Daenerys. It sobered him. Do I really deserve her? You don't. The negative voice inside his head sounded a lot like Lady Catelyn, and John was inclined to agree. His feet carried him to her cabin nonetheless, passing by the Lyseni handmaid, and who gave him a knowing wink. Honour be damned. Propriety be damned. John could not resist Daenerys Targaryen. His weakness. One whose siren call he would always answer. Opening, his mouth dropped, witnessing the most breathtaking sight. A gentle wind blew through the porthole, wafting across Daenerys' face, hair blowing behind her in a lustrous sheen. It was said that such colouring made the Targaryen women the most beautiful in all the world. John certainly thought so, given how he looked at her, those grey eyes near black with desire. Ghost relaxed on the bunk beside her, Dany's fingers gently stroking his fur. A contented smile passed over her face, for but a moment, thinking of the handsome face of her direwolf. Daenerys. Turning at the husky northern brog, a smile spread wide across her face. There you are, my wolf. There was only a split-second hesitation before Daenerys rushed into John's arms. The young lovers embracing tightly, John buried his face in her hair, and Dany kissing the crook of his neck, savouring the other's warmth. I can't believe you're here, he whispered, kissing the silver locks he had fallen in love with. Me neither. She pulled him even tighter, savouring the contact as an indescribable need. It feels like a dream. Aye. Realization dawned on him. It was not something he was certain of, but more of an educated guess. Father won't let you stay in the north. The king is coming. An errant tear fell from Dany's cheek. I know. He'll kill me on sight. And too many northerners hate me for what my father did. Even if Ned Stark gave orders for them to ignore Dany, only one yapping would spell doom. Every sellsword from Dawn to the twins would be after her, and she couldn't hide, for the purple eyes were a dead giveaway. Ironic. Sansa talked so much about star-crossed lovers, and I'm living her stories. I could run away with you. I could. If the usurper knows the bastard son of Eddard Stark is with the Targaryen princess, your family will die, Jon. There was no getting around it. Perhaps if Robert was dead, or if Daenerys had an army. But let's not think about it, my wolf. We will have more time, and I intend to make the most of it. Pulling back, smiling widely at her, Jon kissed her, feeling Dany lose herself in the kiss. He had never felt so happy in his entire life than when he was with her. Wait, Dany, I have something for you. Daenerys watched as he went to his rucksack, pulling out a sword. Her eyes widened. Jon! The blade was curved, an elegant length with a black sharkskin grip and a ruby pommel. Colours of our house. I was going to give it to you as a wedding gift, to remember me by. But now I can give it to you personally. He presented it to her. It is a katana, my love. Favoured by the Yi beyond the red waist. He reached out, guiding Dany's hand along the smooth blade. Sparks shot out from where they touched. Jon, noticing her struggle to remain composed. Their eyes locked, love relaying to each other. But then, suddenly, she noticed something. Jon! The rippling of the steel, the smoky blade, even she knew what this was. This is Valyrian steel, Dany murmured. The young bastard only nodded. No one parts from Valyrian steel. Who gave it to you? Jon sighed. A woman. Kinvara, I think her name was. She just gave it to me in an alleyway in the market. Said it was for a night of terrors or something. I don't know why. Just that you deserve this sword. No, it should be yours. Hand on her cheek, stilling her. Jon merely smiled at her. Dany, I want you to have it. Tears clouding her vision, Dany embraced him, kissing him hard, unable to stop as she greedily took what she needed. This man is already everything to me. At that moment, she resolved that no matter what, she would fight so they could be together. By each other's side, without fear. She was the blood of the dragon, able to conquer anything. Blood of the dragon. She broke the kiss. Jon, come here. I have something to show you. Leading him to her bed, Dany pulled out the sack that contained the dragon eggs. Black, green, and cream. I don't know if you noticed them, what with all that was happening. Jon watched over them in awe, admiring the beautiful scales, the intricate swirls. They are breathtaking. I agree. Clutching the black one, bringing the hard scales to her cheek, holding it as one would a baby. Valerion, she murmured. He was too busy admiring the green dappled egg to hear her. Valerion, that is what I would name this egg if it were alive. He nodded. Black Dread. Nice. Jon motioned to the cream egg. And that one? She ran her hand over it, caressing the white scales. As white as snow. The snows of the north. I shall name it Edaron, after the man that gave me the man I love. Smiling, so in love with her, Jon leaned to kiss her forehead. And the last? Hefting the green egg in his arms. This Dany had to put some thought into. But only one name really stood out. Rhaegal, after the brother I never knew. Rhaegal. Brushing his hands against it, Jon felt a stirring inside. A warmth he couldn't describe. I like it. Setting the egg to the side with the others, he pulled Dany into his arms. I love you, my dragon. And I you, my wolf. They kissed. Okay, and we are cutting short that bit right there. That's it, Joffrey. Swing left, came the guttural growl of King Robert Baratheon. his meaty paws clutching a chicken drumstick, enjoying his considerable lunch outside on the sunny Riverlands day.
Catch him off balance.
The golden-haired prince slashed with his wooden trainer, chafing at his mother's insistence on the generally harmless weapon over his brand-new sword gifted to him by his uncle Renly on his last name day. His personal guard and instructor, Sir Sandor the Hound Clegane, was skilled enough to dumb down his swordsmanship for the boy, but there was no getting past Queen Cersei and her overprotective devotion. It drove Robert to distraction and irritated Joffrey in this instance. Careful! The aforementioned queen, locks as golden as her beloved son, shouted as the Hound skillfully parried a sloppy blow his ward sent at him. Careful with my sweetling! A belch resounded from the king's stomach.
7 hells, woman! The boy needs to man up. Do as you were taught, lad. I'll make a Baratheon out of you yet.
His house was populated with powerful warriors. Both him and his 2 brothers, some of the most skilled in the 7 kingdoms.
Slice his arm off! Defend your house and your honour!
After yet another parry was dispatched, Joffrey snarled and charged at the Hound. Fighting the urge to roll his eyes, the burn-scarred knight sidestepped his prince, watching him trip over his feet and stumble to the ground. Elbow outstretched, it slammed against a stone resting in the grass. Pain shot through Joffrey's arm. A sharp stab that had him curled up into a ball, clutching his wounded arm. Ah! Heads turned across the entire encampment, their prince's cries not an uncommon sound for them. Cersei was out of her seat almost immediately, skirts fluttering as she rushed to her fallen boy. Joffrey, my sweetling! Kneeling, she cared not for the dirt that soiled the expensive silk. Call a maester! The prince is injured! Barely jostling, the king lurched from his bench and made his way over to the 2 of them.
Let me have a look-see.
Once trim and powerful, the man that defeated the great Rhaegar Targaryen with his mighty warhammer, now the king waddled across the ground with the grace of a southern penguin. Or rather, the lack of it. It was a sorry sight. Roughly yanking his son and heir off the ground, Blue Eyes narrowed as they inspected Joffrey's injury.
Gods, what in the name of the warrior is this?
Robert's mouth contorted with disgust and embarrassment.
You call this an injury?
Smacking the affected elbow, Joffrey cried out in pain from the sting. His father wasn't known for his consideration or empathy. Father, please, it hurts! Father, please, it hurts! The king mocked in a falsetto.
Stop whining like a woman. Get back to your tent. Compose yourself like a man. And get back here and do it again. No food until you do.
Shaking his head in annoyance, his glare rested on his queen and wife, though the last time they had shared a bed escaped his memory.
Don't even think about disobeying my command, lion spawn. The boy takes after you too much for his own good.
Grumbling, he plopped down and resumed his lunch, too apathetic to notice the death glare Cersei sent his way. Boots squelching through the mud, Joffrey fought back tears as he hurried to his tent. The Hound followed right behind, ever the loyal guard.
Your Grace, I didn't intend to.
Stuff it, Hound, if you know what's good for you, snarled the prince, flinging the curtains back to the yellow-black tent. Rolling his eyes once more, Sandor muttered exactly what he thought of his ward before heading to grab some stew. Breathing hard, Joffrey sat at what possessions he had. The sharp blade rested on the table, hilt encrusted with gold and steel polished enough to gleam. Freaking Northerners! Freaking Hound! Unsheathing the sword in a blind rage, Joffrey swung it at the table, slicing it in 2. Freaking father! Angered screams echoed through the tent, the blonde-haired boy venting his frustrations out on the furniture. Sir Barristan entered, hand on the hilt of his sword.
What is going on?
Joffrey wheeled around, anger in his green eyes. You! Insect! Get out if you know what's good for you! Insolent little. But the insult was forced to go unanswered. Yes, my prince. He bowed and left, muttering obscenities. He should have died with Rhaegar, he thought to himself. I'll show them! A mirror found itself shattering, Joffrey disgusted with the weak boy staring back at him. I will be the strongest and most powerful king in history! His enemies would rot, his father choking on his words. He will see! They will all see! Hearing the merry chirping of birds all around him, Ned wore a bright smile on his face as he, Jon, and the other Stark household guards that accompanied him to Pentos passed under the Winterfell gate. It hadn't been winter for years, but for him it was always a bit of a shock to see the north so vibrant and full of life. After listening to tales and perceptions of many others from across the world, his home had the reputation of being rather bleak and lifeless, when it was anything but. From how wide-eyed and observant his new charge was at the wonders of the countryside and White Harbour, he couldn't help but puff up his chest a little for his homeland. All only increased as he was greeted by his family, Catelyn embracing him tightly while his children came close to mobbing him. All seemed right in the world, but Ned was no fool. The unspoken worry still hung on his mind. When will Robert be arriving? He asked his lady wife. Catelyn only nodded. His last raven had him leaving the twins. At this rate they are going, probably 3 weeks. Fast riders can make it in less than one, but a royal procession wouldn't have much speed. Especially Robert. The man wasn't in a hurry to do anything other than fight and have sex. Good. He had time. In preparation for his visit, I hired 2 servants in Pentos to help us. One is half Dothraki, while the other is... Ned thought for a moment. From Lys. If anyone noticed Daenerys' Valyrian features, they could excuse it as Lyseni. The silver hair was another matter entirely, but hair dye fixed that problem. Would you see that Nan gives them the quarters in the servant section? Of course, Lord Husband, his wife replied. If she was confused by the situation, she did not show it. Letting out a breath he didn't know he was holding, Ned turned his attention to Jon. He seems lighter, more confident. Ned would have been an idiot to not know why. On top of being young lovers, their connection was overpowering. As if the two just couldn't be away from each other for any long stretch of time. Just like Lyanna. Wolves and dragons were passionate, mating for life. Can't resist the allure of each other. Sparing one last glance at the lad, Ned smiled at himself and then entered the keep. The prospect of a warm bath sounded wonderful to him. Free from her mother's watchful eye, the first thing Arya had done was run into Jon's arms, leaping up and wrapping her arms and legs around him. I missed you, big brother, she breathed tightly. Oof! I can see that, Arya. Jon chuckled, squeezing the feisty little girl tightly. In the corner of his eye, he could see the hooded figure of Daenerys watching him, wide smile on her face. Tell me about Pentos. Did you really see the Golden Company? Did the Captain General really have Blackfire on his hip? Arya sounded like a kid that captured a plate of pastries. Letting her out of his arms, Jon ruffled her hair. No, I didn't see them. Arya's face fell. I will tell you of everything else tonight, after dinner. Face lighting up once again, she leaned up on her tiptoes to kiss his cheek. Even still, Jon had to lean down before running back into the keep. Feeling a tap on his shoulder, Jon turned to find Sansa. Wordlessly, the red-haired young beauty pulled him into a hug. Initially shocked, Jon quickly returned it, his heart swelling that the one sibling who had adopted Lady Stark's attitude, finally giving him the loving affection the others did. I'm glad you're home, brother, she said simply, smiling before heading in the same direction as Arya. Before Jon could ponder it, his older brother drew his attention. The Southern Sun agrees with you, Jon. Robb chuckled, punching his brother's shoulder playfully. Adds a nice tan to your skin. That's what happens on the open ocean, Theon Greyjoy said, combing his hair with his hands. It's why the Iron Islands breed strong, virile warriors. The majesty of the waves. Jon rolled his eyes. A month away hadn't changed Theon worth a damn. Is that right? Then why are you here? Or Stannis Baratheon alive? Theon's smirk quickly changed into a scowl. deeper after Rob joined in the laughter. Enjoying putting the arrogant shit down, John winced, thinking of old Nan gripping his chin in a vice of bony fingers to shave him dry. I still don't see the point of that. All of us endured this, John, Rob responded. Mother wants us pretty for the king and queen. And I'm not letting you weasel your way out of it like you did everything else when you were gone. There was a mischievous twinkle in his eyes. Worked well with me. I got so many women in Wintertown with this haircut. Strutting around the room, Theon's smugness was overbearing. Wish you could have seen it, bastard. He winked and left the room. John rolled his eyes. Left alone with Rob in the courtyard, a few people around them, none in earshot. Well, Theon's as much of an arse as he always was. The memory of the Iron Islander almost killing the pups came to mind. Aye, he is. Rob furrowed his brows. You didn't brood or shy away when he bragged about his exaggerated prowess. Damn, John thought, but his brother was already on the scent. Did you meet a girl in Essos? The raven-haired lad's silence said it all. Rob laughed merrily. Wow, good for you, he said, slapping him on the back. Who was it? The Targaryen princess? Tone indicating it was a joke, the smile fell a bit as John's continued silence. Was it? John's eyes quickly flickered to Dany. Cloak pulled high over her face as old Nan ordered her and Araya to the special servants' accommodations Ned had instructed to be made for them. He couldn't betray her to Rob, not while her safety hung on the line. Whatever happened, there's no future to it. Not a lie. That's what made it so painful. John hadn't been home an hour before Septa Mordain had swept him up, ordering him to help the stable boys unshoe the horses and bring them to the stables for feeding and watering. Gathering his father was already in the keep and out of reach, John just sighed and went to his duty. The life of a bastard never changes. He could count on his fingers the number of people who treated him as a lord's son rather than a waste of space. Walking down the halls 3 hours later, freshly bathed after Arya insisted he use her hot water to wash away the stink, probably to scandalise Lady Stark as much as helping him out, John thought he could count on one finger someone who treated him as more than Eddard Stark's son. Someone that made him feel like a man greater than most august, powerful king. Daenerys. Dany. Dorea, already settling in as a kitchen hand, told him where to find her in the deep of the servants' quarters of the keep. And there he was, Knuckles rapping on the door, ready to see his beloved again. The door opened, and there she was, clad in a grey sleeping shift, baggy over her body. She looked breathtaking. John, she beamed. I was worried you wouldn't come. Nothing could keep me away from you, my dragon. So after they enjoy a little bit of fun, yeah, actually, no, I'm going to stop it there. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this. Welcome back to my channel. That was nice. And just a lovely little reunion. I like the little bit with Sansa that she steps forward and gives Jon a hug. Love that. Their reunion was one of the best in the show, and they had never shared a scene beforehand. That is how good the actors are. I mean, yeesh. Anyway, remember to like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Bye!